when Jesus was born, and he was born out of Joseph not actually impregnating Mary, I don't believe that any way they shared it with their parents. So we need to have secrets. Not all what that happens in our marriages need to be shared with our in-laws. Okay, so we need to be very wise with doing that. Above all, we need to seek peace, and we need to pursue it. 1 Peter 3, 10 through 11, that we must seek peace in every relationship. So what are the examples of in-laws in the Bible? We look at Moses and Jethro. Our parents are given to us to God for a purpose, and they have experiences that we need to tap into. They have wisdom that they've lived this life, and it will be an advantage of us to tap through it. So if Moses didn't listen to Jethro's advice, he would have overburdened himself with the people of Israelites, because they will come to him for judging, and he will judge like 1,000 people every time. And Jethro came and said, "You can delegate this." That was an advice that if he wasn't close to Jethro, then he wouldn't have been able to relieve himself of that duty. Also, let's look at Simon Peter. Simon Peter's mother-in-law lived with them, and she was sick. She had a fever. And if she was not in the home when Jesus arrived, she may never have been healed and be saved from that. So we need, as Christians, to open our homes to our in-laws. If we don't do that, we do a disservice to our children. There are things that our children need to have that you can provide, that only your grandparents can do that. And when we don't do that to them, we deprive them of that. So one of the things, that I would like to encourage the mothers and the daughter-in-laws is that, especially, in the sense of the daughter-in-laws, remember that the way you treat your in-laws today, that you are going to be in their shoes one day. So we should treat each other the way we want to be treated. We should treat each other with empathy. And for the mother-in-laws as well, to know that this daughter-in-law that you're in here, you need to embrace her like your daughter. If she does something wrong, call her and encourage her, and not, be, so discouraging whereby she feels like she can't open up to you. I always say something to you. I said, any relationship you go, you have to study everyone involved in it. What I do to my parents that I think is love, to my in-laws might be abusive, might not be love. So I have to understand, how they interpret love in their family. So, the relationship has to be built. Naomi and Ruth just did not get to where they were. Ruth just did not decide to follow Naomi. Naomi had a particular trait in her that Ruth loved and said, you know what, I will follow this woman. So be followable and be embraceable if you're a daughter-in-law. That someone would want to embrace you. No one wants to take your husband away from you. That is just it. No one wants to do that. Because every time I see a disruption, people do not understand that when the correction is made, it's because they love you. If you don't love somebody, you can just look away, right? But when there's a correction made, it comes from a place of love. So when there's any type of conflict, we need to treat it from a place of love. Above all, love each other. Put yourself in their shoes, have empathy, stand, talk to your in-laws and come from a place of love. That whatever you do, if you are always, the one that's always complaining about something, but if you tell your spouse and you say, you know what, honey, I don't like how this happened. Not because of the fact that I feel like she's trying to do this to make me feel this, but I don't feel, you just explain it to your spouse and let him be the one to advocate for you, but not going to confront anybody in a manner of the way the world does it. Because we're Christians, right? And we need to let our life be example. Because some of us have in-laws that are not Christians. And some of us have in-laws that are Christians, but the perception of Christianity is skewed from what the Bible is. We have to be honest, right? that they're Christians, but their perception is skewed. But we have to be very mindful that above all, I would always have to ask myself, what would Jesus do in this situation? How was Jesus handle the situation? And, another one is we have to be mindful of our tongue. Our tongue is a consuming fire. It's not everything that you have to answer back. A lot of times silence is just golden. Silence is golden. We need to be prayerful. I'd rather take it to God than me confronting an issue. I just take it to God and let God fight that battle for me. And also, if you fight, what are you trying to prove if you fight? You're not going to win. Just let God fight the battle for you. Our attributes, our life needs to show an example that we're Christians. And if you have to look at it, even our own mothers offend us. Some of us have mothers that are tougher than our mother-in-laws, right? And we still were able to deal with them. So let's be frank, to make sure that what we do, that it's something that God would, what Jesus would do in everything I would do. So, another thing I wanted to mention is that we need to allow peace to reign in every situation. I did mention that you don't want to do anything that will cause somebody else to stumble or fall. So you want to make sure that you let peace reign above all in that relationship. And I pray that God would help us. If Ruth and Naomi were not that close, Ruth would not be in the lineage of Jesus, right? So you want to tap into all the blessings that God has put you in. You want to tap into all those blessings, and don't let your flesh take over. Thank you very much.
That was amazing. That was amazing, right? Please put your hand together for my sister, please. For our mommy. That was beautiful. I really learned a lot, and I'm sure that even the people here that have in-laws already, I definitely learned a lot, and I'm going to hold it in my left hand. Like we say in my culture, no culture, sorry. But like we say in Yoruba land, when they give you advice, you say you put it in your left hand so that you're not easy to eat. So I'm putting everything she said in her left hand and everything else we've read today. Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Now we'll be moving on from the summary, and we'll be having our daddy Pastor Koya, who's going to be taking the summary. Please put your hands together for him.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity given me to summarize what everyone had said. Let me say from the outset that the most difficult thing with human being, the greatest problem we have is forgetfulness. Now, everything we had here, in 3 days, we probably remember only 10%. And that may not be good enough. So, I don't know what's going to be in place so that this can be rehearsed, because we have had very important, very significant discussion this month. Perhaps it's going to reflect in our bulletin in series. Perhaps we're going to have it in a video audio format so that we can listen over and over again until we internalize everything that we have heard today. But because we don't have the pleasure of time, I will just go through the little bits. It's a summary. It's not trying to repeat what everyone had said. From all that I can make out here, and you do a better job because you have your own papers also with you. We noticed that thriving in relationships, we heard that it is actually exceeding natural expectation. Because for you to thrive, you must exceed natural expectation. There are ways that people of the world do it. There are ways that people who don't know God do it. Whether in market situation, and when I say market, whether school, whether job situation, whether with your own spouse, whether with your in-law, we must be better than those who are natural men. Then number two, we also saw that to thrive also means to make a positive impact in all these relationships, whether in the market situation, our goal should be that we want to make positive impacts. We want to really influence. If we are not influencing, then we are not building a good relationship. And we also heard that it is actually fulfilling divine purposes of the relationship. There is no relationship without a purpose. Whether you're in school, whether you're at work, whether in the church, whether with your spouse, there is a divine purpose. And then fulfilling that divine purpose actually means that we're thriving. One recurring decimal in all the speakers is the issue of love. That, whether you're at school, whether with neighbors, whether in the church, it is said that for us to thrive and in marriage, we must exude love. And to the extent that we must be able to love the unlovable. And the unlovable can be the in-law. We must be able to love. The unlovable can even be a church member. When we see unlovable, we know what it means. And then we also heard from every speaker here today that it is also for us to become an example by conduct. The example by conduct, by what we do. As a matter of fact, that speaks louder than the verbal evangelism that we do. We don't have the pleasure of time. It may be good to ask us, how did you get here as a member of this church? How did you become a member here? Did you become a member by listening to us on the radio? Did you become a member because you saw a tract? Most likely you became a member because of a relationship. It may be by marriage, it may be because it's a co-worker, it may be because it's a neighbor. So we see now that relationship is more powerful in populating the church than what we say. What we do speaks much louder. So to the individual, I will just pick one or two, three things. Pastor Bolaji spoke to us. Very lengthy discussion that I think we should hear again and again. But I can summarize all that is said in Romans chapter 12 verse 11. He said, be diligent in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. And that's exactly what he said. When you're in school, when you're in your workplace, we must be diligent. We must be fervent in spirit. We must serve the Lord. These three components must be found there. So he emphasized excellence in what you're doing. Excellence without cheating. And in workplace, he talked extensively on respect. Whether your worker, whether your boss is a boss, or is a leader, or is a mentor, is a friend, or it's somebody impossible, we must show respect. So he said, in your work, you must do, in what you're doing, in what you say, you must show Christ, because that is the essence why you're there. And we listened to the other speaker on Mrs. Ijoma. Yeah, that's St. John. Mrs. Ijoma spoke extensively, and he said we must be, our relationship must exceed. In fact, that is why I got the first definition I showed us. And she said we must operate in love. That is key in being able to show good relationship to our neighbor and to members of the church. When she was speaking, I said, what is love? We need to ask ourselves, what is love? Love is not just pecking, it's not just honking. Love is caring for your neighbor. Love is caring for your church member. Somebody isn't in church, somebody isn't looking good, somebody, came to church and doesn't have a way to get home. Love is caring. It's not driving you and your wife and your children away, and you don't care how does this person get away from you. So she said we must operate in love, and she said that we must also take care of attitude. We must have winsome attitude. Our attitude must be the one that will win people over to Christ. Let me stop there and go to what our mommy Ojewale spoke to us. After going through the definition of marriage and looking at misconceptions about marriages and all that is wrong in the society, she emphasized the role of partners in marriage, the role of the man, which the key role of the man is to love. To the extent that if there should be a gunshot and they want to kill only one person, you and your wife, one of you should decide who should go, the man should go. That's what she said, that you must love your wife to the extent that you can give your life for your wife as Christ did for the church. So you don't get the pizza. I don't like pizza, but you don't get the pizza and you have your wife to go and carry. So you must take the carry and let your wife take the pizza. That is what you should do. And it says to the woman also, the woman should submit. Now you see, when you look at it, if you submit as you should, you actually go to law. When your husband says enough, it is enough because it's your husband. It doesn't mean that you are being suppressed. It's not suppression. It is submission because you love this person, because you care about this person. And she gave us a lot of hints. I love that 3-level communication, but I'm not going to repeat what she said. And she talked about sex, forgiveness, faithfulness, all that you need, all these hints that you need so that your home can be what it should be. The in-law by Dr. Akintewe, she printed that document, so it means it's ready for the press, camera ready. So maybe we'll get the document and then circulate online, and there are a lot of good things we have there. One thing she said, when a man leaves his father and mother, they become one, right? But by Bible standard, it's not only the man and the woman that lives and become one. The two families live each other and also become one. So when you are married, you are actually marrying families. You are marrying families. So by extension, that means your mother-in-law is your mother. Your father-in-law is your father. So all of them is like you now have 4 parents, 2 mothers, 2 fathers, if they are still alive, and if they have all gone to be in glory, then you have whatever is left. But she said the 2 families become one. So if you look at it from that perspective, you are not going to see your mother-in-law as a mother-in-law, but who? As your mother. You are not going to see your father-in-law as your father, as a father-in-law, but who? As your father. So that makes it easier. But even though it's your mother-in-law becoming your mother or your father, we also have difficult fathers. We also have difficult mothers. So if your mother-in-law is difficult, just know that your mother is difficult, and then you know how to deal. And then she said, we can handle that by operating in God's own God's defined concept, that we should deal with them in love as Christ expects us to love. She said a number of things about what could create issues between particularly the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law. That is where the difference is. I think I have a suggestion about why should that happen, and not usually between father-in-law and the son-in-law. There's a reason, but then let's go into that because she didn't take us to that level. So she said the word of God should be our central basis. You see, the Bible says our citizenship is not Nigeria. Our citizenship is not America. Yes, it's not Britain. Where is it? Our citizenship is where? It's in heaven. So we are a dual citizen personality. We belong to heaven, but we are operating on earth. So we should guide our lives by the constitution of heaven, not what happens in America, not what happens in Nigeria. And if we do that, we're going to find it easier. And we need to put some guide in place. She mentioned a number of them. Set boundaries. We must know. Okay, I asked this question. Actually, this happened somewhere I was recently. The wife was asking the husband, must everybody know what is going on between us? And she said that everybody doesn't need to know what is going on between, not even your mother-in-law, because when a man leaves his father and mother, he joins with his wife and they become what? One. So why must a third party? So let me leave what they have said, because when I was told I was going to summarize, I said I was going to say 1 or 2 things so that this can be added on, and it has been mentioned, and I will finish in the next 1 minute. Number 1 is that to keep good relationship, please let us keep focus on that relationship. What is the focus of this relationship? And then number 2, let us avoid dysfunctionality in relationship. What I mean is this: let's avoid dysfunctionality in relationship. let us know, don't let us mix up roles. Don't let us mix up roles. If you are a husband, there is a role for a husband. You don't play the role of a father to your wife. If you are a mother-in-law, you are not the wife to your son. So once you avoid that, fulfill your role and don't try to play another person's role. Don't even try to play the role of God. Because sometimes we play the role of God and we create problems for our homes. Now, some people needed to be taught what to do, but we want to do for them what they should do for themselves. Then we get into trouble. Finally, we should also avoid disorder, because there is a godly order for relationship. And let me say, as we know, the first relationship you should have is between you and God, and nothing should come in between that. Not even your wife should do that. Not even the pastor should do that. Nobody should come in between that. Then the next relationship is between you and your spouse, not your mother-in-law. You and your spouse, number two. Number three, then you and your children. Now, nothing should come in between that. Mother-in-law is not coming, father-in-law is not coming, pastor is not even coming. If your child has a need in school and the pastor says you should report in church, where do you go first? School. And you just tell your pastor, my child has a need and I have to attend to it. That is godly order. And I think a pastor, that is what it sought, will not tell you, no, go and do this first. But if God says, this is what you should do, and school is calling you, you probably say, look, I have a business with God. And I want to say, after your child is your church. So don't make church a reason for breaking up relationship with your spouse. And then friends, don't even bring friends in-laws. So when we follow these orders which God has given us, we have a little problem. Let me stop here. To summarize, I'm not supposed to give an additional talk. And other things we have missed out, maybe during question time, we'll be able to bring them up. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. Now we're moving to the question and answer segment of today's program. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes. If you have questions, you can think about them. If you've written them down, just make sure that you raise your hand so I can come get them from you. So we're going to be, our daddy's going to be, we're going to be reading out the questions. If you want the mic also, you can just wave your hand. I'll walk up to you with the mic so that you can ask your question, and our daddy would be answering those questions. Are we good? All right, Sister Shade has a question. Okay, all right, so, yeah.
Don't collect all the questions together. Don't call anybody's name.
All right, so the protocol is that the questions have to be written down, and I'll come collect them from you. All right, we do have one here from, we do have one question here, so